Oh, hello there. It's strange. On my poker table, I had this bottle labeled Drink Me. I thought, what the heck, let's give it a try. I give it a slug. Next thing I know, I'm on top of my poker table and I'm this size. Well, luckily my clothes shrunk down with me. Well, hopefully this will wear off soon. When it does, we'll go to my studio and wrap up this Poker Basics video series with 2 important topics. So let's cue up the intro, and hopefully I can make it back to my studio chair. Welcome to BakYard Poker, a channel dedicated to expanding your poker palette beyond just Texas Hold'em. I'm Ryan, your host, and I finally come to the last part of this Poker Basics series. This video will discuss the all too important topics of house rules and poker etiquette. This is part 10 of my Poker Basics series. A lot of the information I will provide here has been shown in my prior 9 videos. If you're new to playing home dealer's choice poker backyard style, you should view these other parts to be more familiar with the poker concepts and terms used. I'll provide links to all my previous Poker Basic videos in the description below. So this video will discuss 2 major areas, house rules and poker etiquette. A lot of these items are in place to promote fairness and respect for all players involved. House rules help keep the games fair and handle most disputes that may arise. They also prevent the games from getting too much out of hand if most participants are not as loose and experimental as others. They are created and enforced by the host of the poker game. Because of how many rule and game variations there can be in dealer's choice home poker games, the host will create rules of what is allowed and not allowed at his or her poker table. For those looking to host a poker game for the first time, it's a good idea to poll your guests about what types of games and rules should be allowed. Should we allow wild cards? What will be the ante? What will be the betting restrictions? These are just a few examples of rules that should be discussed beforehand to help mold the types of poker games most of your guests will want to play. A host should always have his or her house rules written down and sent to all potential players in advance. This allows players to bow out if the rules are not agreeable to them. In the description below, I will be providing 3 links for a house rules form I use for the poker games I host. One version will be a blank form for you to use to fill in your rules. Another version will be filled in with all possible entry types for each rule. The last one will be my personal house rules that I use for my poker games. To keep this video shorter, you will notice several rules that have a red asterisk and a number. Those are references that will be shown in the description to point you to previous videos that explain the house rule in more detail. A lot of these rules are in context with the type of games being played, betting restrictions, and other specific items that will need more explanation. That's why it's important to watch the other 9 parts of this series for these rules to make more sense to you. So here is the filled-in version of the rule list with all possible options. I'll circle the ones most commonly used in most poker games. Be sure to stick around to the end of this list where I explain probably the most important rule you should have in any house rules document. Rule number 1 is pretty simple. It is the ante amount everyone will put in for every game. It is also typically used as the increment used for normal raising. A quarter is most common. Rule number 2 is whether chips or coins will be used in the games. Typically, quarters are used for home dealer's choice games. Just remember that using chips for dealer's choice poker will require cumbersome cashing in and cashing out of the chips for money. The third rule is whether each player puts in their own ante or the dealer puts in everyone's ante and no one else is required to. This essentially accomplishes the same goal of each player putting their ante in every game. The reason for having the dealer put in all the players' ante is to prevent not having enough money in the game to match the players. Believe it or not, some players can be absent-minded and forget to put in their ante. Rule number 4 is the opening bet amounts for stud and draw type games. As I mentioned, they usually start with the ante amount, but may allow higher bet amounts under certain conditions. For stud games, any pair showing on the table allows double the ante. For draw games, the last betting round also allows for double the ante. Number 5 is the raise amounts allowed. These are usually the same as the opening bet amounts allowed. Rule 6 is the maximum number of raises allowed in one betting round. This should be somewhere between 3 and 6 to prevent someone from going broke in one game. Number 7 is whether someone can check but then raise after the opening bet is done. Most of the time this is allowed, but you may get scowls from some of the other players. Rule 8 is whether wild cards are allowed in any game. Further restrictions on wild card usage may also be added. Rule 9 is what the value of a wild card is, assuming wild cards are allowed, by itself when dealt face up. Most times, just the actual value of the card is used. Rule number 10 is what should be done to break ties for the highest up card showing for stud games. This is usually the first highest hand dealt. Number 11 is the draw limit. This is usually a 3-card limit, but may have to be a 2-card limit depending on the number of players. Rule 12 is an exception to Rule 11's draw limit. This allows any player to show an ace during the draw step and be able to draw 4 cards instead of the regular amount of 3. Again, this will depend on the number of players involved. Rule 13 is whether aces can be used as a high or low card for lowball games and straights that go from ace to 5. Rule 14 is for games where the lowest poker hand can win or split the pot. If an ace can be used low, the lowest poker hand is ace, 2, 3, 4, and 6. If an ace is only used high, the lowest hand is 2, 3, 5, 7. Number 15 is who gets the oddball coin when a pot is uneven and split between 2 players. Typically, the winner with the highest poker hand will get it. Rule 16 is whether you need to declare your poker hand at the showdown and be bound to it, or have the cards do the talking and the actual highest hand is your poker hand. Rule 17 is allowing poker games that might require all players to fold their hands, re-ante, and deal out another hand of poker. Jacks or better 5-card draw is an example of this. This could potentially go on forever, so some hosts will put a limit to the number of times a redeal is allowed. After that, the game is played to its normal completion. You can also just not allow these types of games. Rule number 18 is whether pot limit games are allowed. This allows someone to bet or raise up to the current pot amount. Be very careful with this one. This may be too high a stakes for most of the casual players. Rule 19 is whether thorn cards are allowed. Rule 20 is if kill cards are allowed. Rule number 21 is whether someone can have required betting, usually on face-down community cards, where no checking is allowed. And Rule 22 is the last game time. It's actually a good idea to have an actual end time so everyone knows when the poker night is over. You can also list a grand finale game if you want. I like to do a dollar showdown with side bets. I'll explain that in a future video. At the bottom of my house rules form is an area to add your own house rules. The rule I added here is that I, as the host, make the final decision on any disputes that may arise. This was discussed in my poker interview video I had with my father, David. Poker etiquette are unwritten rules that everyone should follow to ensure a pleasant poker experience. These rules are different than house rules because they do not have any options. They're just expectations and respectful things that should be followed at any home poker game. Let's take a look at my top 10 poker etiquette rules. Rule number 1, always offer the cut. It is just customary and a respectful token to offer the cut to the dealer's right to ensure no stacking of the deck is done or just a superstition that cutting the deck at any given time feels lucky. Number 2, never look at a player's folded cards. When a player folds, those cards are dead and not to be looked at. To look at them or ask to look at them is rude and shouldn't be done unless the player himself offers up the folded cards. Number 3, no string betting. If you're raising, put the full amount in. Don't put in the called bet and then raise separately. The reasoning for this is someone could call the bet, look at each player's reactions, and then decide to raise. Rule number 4, don't rub it in. Show a little humility if you win a big pot, and don't gloat. The only exception to this is if you really know your fellow poker players and can rib them a little bit. Number 5, wait your turn. For betting, make sure to go in order. Don't fold prematurely. Do it on your turn to bet. Betting or folding out of order may give someone else an unfair advantage. Number 6, be punctual. Whether you are a host or a guest, be sure to show up on time. Don't keep your fellow poker players waiting. It's just plain rude. Number 7, don't leave early. If you have agreed to the house rules and show up to play, you are agreeing to play until the scheduled end time. This is not casino poker. The only exception is if you talk to the host ahead of time and need to leave early and the host agrees to it. The host should let every player know at the beginning of the game if someone will be leaving early. Number 8, never charge an entry fee. For most home poker games to be legal, you cannot charge players an entry fee that is above and beyond what is used to play at the poker table. Also, there is no guarantee every area allows home poker games at all. Please check your local laws before engaging in any private games involving real money. The only exception for collecting money outside of a poker game is if you're going to order a pizza or have some other food order. Number 9, this is for the host. Have a clean house and supply food and drink. As a host, make sure your house is tidy and clean. Most poker games will last more than 4 hours, so you should provide some type of food and non-alcoholic beverages. Let your guests bring their own booze. To help offset the cost of the food, you could have a potluck, where everyone brings a dish or snacks and you supply the main dish. And number 10, guests should be respectful and interested in socializing. The main purpose of home poker games should not be just to take everyone's money and not be interested in socializing. Don't be surprised if you don't get invited back with that type of attitude. We have now come to the end of our poker introduction journey, my friends. This is just the tip of the iceberg of this wonderful game of poker. There are other interesting rules, games, interviews, and tips that I will continue to explore in future videos. My hope was that these poker basic videos were comprehensive enough to prepare you for your first poker night playing in the home dealer's choice backyard style. So now I have 2 questions of the day. First, what important house rule do you use in your home poker games that wasn't mentioned here? And second, what is your opinion of this Poker Basics series as a whole? Please leave any comments, suggestions, criticisms in the comments section below. If this video and this series was valuable to you, please click the like button. If you're interested in more backyard poker videos, click that subscribe button. I'd love to have you on board. And remember to click the bell icon to know when those new videos get posted. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for future backyard poker videos.
Well, I guess I really ought to be making up songs, but all I want to do is play cards. I know it's dumb, it's sick and wrong, but all I want to do is play cards. I got the studio booked in Tennessee, and my record producer's calling me. The tape will roll in just 3 weeks, and all I want to do is play cards. They want to book the band for a rodeo dance, and all I want to do is play cards. The contract claims they got $5,000, but all I want to do is play cards. My agent says we ought to take the show, but to tell you the truth, I don't want to go. There's a real good game, a split high-low, and all I want to do is play cards. Cribbing, guts, and stuck in gin and stud and cowboy pitch. Blackjack 8 or better, hold 'em, draw, and chase the bitch. Ace-a-deucey, never loosey, hearts and Black Mariah. Smear low Chicago, man, the stakes keep getting higher. Well, I can skate for free in the hockey league, but all I want to do is play cards. A tattooed young dark-haired girls call me, and all I want to do is play cards. Well, there's famous people like to ride with me, and the beard, the black dog's usually free. The whole damn world's an oyster to me, and all I want to do is play cards. We're on the radio in El Paso, and all I want to do is play cards. I finally got a little bit of pressing TO.